On this Saturday night, Gaza at a crossroads. Hamas scoffs at claims of an imminent ceasefire as Israel bombs another residential neighborhood. And a Gazan infant tests positive for polio. Ukraine on the march. Its forces capture more Russian communities with sights set on a nuclear power plant. Wild weather.
Wow, look at that.
A suspected tornado slams into southwestern Ontario as Atlantic Canada braces for Hurricane Ernesto. And questionable call. The play that had this Canadian tennis star crying foul.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. We begin tonight in Gaza, where aid groups are racing to avert the spread of polio after the Palestinian territory's first confirmed case of the virus in 25 years was detected in an infant. Polio virus is highly infectious and most often spread through sewage and contaminated water, which is now rampant in Gaza. Hundreds of thousands are crowding into makeshift camps. Sanitation and sewage facilities damaged or destroyed by 10 months of war. The United Nations is calling for a pause in the fighting to allow for a mass vaccination campaign. But the UN chief says the ultimate vaccine for polio is peace. The latest round of ceasefire talks in Qatar are receiving mixed reviews, heading into a critical week in those negotiations. Nathaniel Dove has our top story tonight.
The constant danger of life in Gaza is that Israeli airstrikes will end it. The IDF killing at least 15 people in this strike Saturday, according to a Palestinian news agency. Now, there is a new threat. Health authorities have detected polio.
The case involves a child, actually a newborn. He is only 10 months old.
It's a highly contagious disease that can result in paralysis and death, and mainly affects children.
Polio manages to find the kids who haven't been vaccinated. So for people living in Gaza, it's one more catastrophe layered on top of many others.
This expert says it spreads quickly through untreated water. Gazans had high vaccination rates, but the war devastated the water and healthcare systems, preventing shots.
Let's be clear. The ultimate vaccine for polio is peace and an immediate humanitarian ceasefire.
The UN pushing for a deal, or at least a pause, to send in more than 1,000 teams of healthcare workers.
I'm optimistic, not far from over. Just a couple more issues, I think we got a shot.
U.S. President Joe Biden also announcing he's sending the Secretary of State to Israel.
I would just frankly have the Americans put maximum pressure on right now.
This former Canadian ambassador to Israel says Antony Blinken's visit could be a sign of progress, but the U.S. has been wrong before, and Hamas says ceasefire progress is an illusion. Iran and Hezbollah also promising to attack Israel unless there is a deal.
This is a positive indication that a lot of the intensive diplomacy taking place in the region, as well as the back channels.
Gazans suffering. Israelis increasingly frustrated. For now, no one knows when, if, a deal will happen as the threats facing Palestinians in Gaza grow. Nathaniel Dove, Global News, Toronto.
As Nathaniel mentioned, a ceasefire deal is seen as the best hope of preventing a wider regional war. And we had another reminder of that risk today as Hezbollah and Israel traded fire. Hezbollah launched a barrage of some 55 rockets at an Israeli community located about 10 kilometers from Lebanon's border. No one was hurt. The Iran-backed militant group says the attack was in response to an overnight Israeli airstrike that killed at least 10 people in southern Lebanon. Ukraine's military continues its push into Russia, threatening to turn the tables in a war that's ravaged their country for 2.5 years. Ukrainian troops are moving deeper into the Kursk region. And as Mackenzie Gray reports, they're inching closer to a nuclear power plant.
Another Russian village taken as Ukraine's improbable march continues on. The count now up to 80 settlements, according to Kyiv, as their stunning incursion into Russia looks to get more sophisticated. The Kremlin alleging US-made HIMARS rockets were used by Ukraine to destroy this Russian bridge, leading Ukrainian president to ask the West to rescind restrictions some Western allies have implemented on weapons being used inside Russia. It's crucial that our partners remove barriers that prevent us from weakening Russian positions, Volodymyr Zelensky said. Canada has no such limits, and Canadian-made vehicles are already being used inside Russia. How far Ukraine will go is still unknown. They've already captured more Russian territory than the Russians have gained in Ukraine this whole year, according to the Institute of the Study of War. And this soldier giving away where the Ukrainians are likely headed next, the Kursk nuclear plant. It's the fourth largest electricity supplier in Russia, and within striking distance of the Ukrainians. Russia already holding a Ukrainian nuclear plant that the International Atomic Energy Agency says was nearly hit by a drone strike.
Even if neither side is sort of trying on purpose to instrumentalize that in a conflict, it can introduce a whole lot of additional risks that we're not sort of used to mitigating or haven't got a good template for mitigating.
Additional drone and missile attacks from Russia have increased across Ukraine, as Russian President Vladimir Putin warns they will retaliate with a worthy response. How long Ukraine can hold out and how much further they can push into Russia remains to be seen, Jeff, but any territory they are able to hold could be a valuable bargaining chip as a part of potential peace talks.
All right, Mackenzie Gray in Ottawa. Thanks, Mac. In India, medical workers have begun a nationwide strike demanding better protection for women after last week's rape and murder of a trainee doctor. More than 1 million medical workers are taking part in the 24-hour nationwide shutdown. The Indian Medical Association says all non-essential hospital services will remain closed across the country. This is the father of the 31-year-old female doctor killed inside a medical college in Kolkata. His face has been blurred to protect his identity. He says he's drawing strength from those who are seeking justice for his daughter. Hurricane Ernesto made landfall in Bermuda today as a Category 1 storm. Sustained winds of 130 kilometers an hour battered the island. Forecasters had also warned that heavy rain could cause flash flooding, but so far there are no reports of major damage. That storm is expected to remain over the open ocean before brushing past St. John's late on Monday, bringing wind and rain to the eastern tip of Newfoundland. And some nasty weather is already wreaking havoc here at home. A suspected tornado touched down in a rural Ontario community this morning.
Wow, look at that.
Residents in the small town of Ayr captured this video of what appears to be a tornado at around 11 a.m. The township of North Dumfries says it's dealing with a cluster of extensive damage in the area. A local hardware store had its roof partially torn off, with many homes now left without power. Fortunately, no injuries have been reported. Environment Canada had issued a severe thunderstorm and tornado warning for the Waterloo region, but it is yet to confirm if that storm system did in fact produce a tornado. And for the second time in a month, heavy rain is causing significant flooding in southern Ontario. These pictures are from Toronto's Woodbine Racetrack, where the King's Plate horse races were interrupted by intense thunderstorms, sending people scrambling for cover. The Toronto and Region Conservation Authority is reporting 81 millimeters of rain within a single hour. Streets and parking lots in Mississauga, just west of Toronto, are also seeing major flooding. Environment and Climate Change Canada is advising residents there to keep children and pets away from riverbanks due to the risk of flash floods and to brace for nickel-sized hail. And the cleanup is also underway in Montreal after that major water main break that swamped streets near the city's Jacques Cartier Bridge. The rupture caused a powerful geyser that flooded dozens of nearby residences and commercial buildings. 150,000 homes remain under a boil water advisory, and there's still no official word on what caused that pipe to burst. As Dan Spector reports, the city says it will take weeks to source the equipment needed to fix it.
The images are still hard to believe. Water blasting 20 meters into the air for hours after a 2-meter wide underground water main burst just east of downtown Montreal. The city says 20 businesses and 50 homes were flooded. A day later, these massive pieces of asphalt demonstrate the sheer power of the blast. Crews still have not been able to lay eyes on the ruptured conduit.
We will have to clean, to excavate, and then we will judge.
loud rumble of heavy-duty pumps pulling water out of flooded basements is everywhere. At Bell Media, vehicles and camera equipment in an underground garage were destroyed. The deluge flowed straight toward this building, housing several small businesses, its hallways turning into rivers.
There was 3 feet of water here.
Yvan Bastien builds sets and props for TV and movies. He says hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of high-tech machinery has been ruined. Another business lost a whole warehouse full of big-screen TVs. This food distributor saw $1 million worth of mustard and other fine grocery items flow out the door and into the alleyway, none of it covered by insurance. Friends and family have come to help clean, but they want government aid.
We think that it's important to have some help because we might close our shop.
The pipe was only 40 years old, half of its expected lifespan. This expert says in the 70s and 80s, standards were weaker.
So we've seen in other cities early failure of this type of pipe. Right? So it is a manufacturing issue, and the standard has since been corrected.
In June, Calgary saw a 49-year-old water main break, severely impacting access to water. In Montreal, 150,000 homes remain under a boil water advisory, but still have access thanks to recent infrastructure work.
If that would happen 10 years ago, we would be in trouble.
The city says just getting the material to fix the unique pipe could take months. Dan Spector, Global News, Montreal.
In Toronto, crews have partly demolished a downtown building which had looked like it was on the verge of collapse. The top of the 2-story building was taken apart after its facade was teetering toward the street below. That prompted evacuations and the controlled demolition. Officials now say the unsafe structure has been removed, and they're still trying to determine if the remaining building is safe and investigating what caused the structural issues. Manitoba RCMP are investigating an apparent triple murder-suicide in the small community of McCreary, northwest of Winnipeg. You can see there police tapes surrounding the home where 3 bodies were found, a 66-year-old woman and 2 men aged 65 and 35. On a nearby road, police found a 4th body of a 41-year-old man who they say died from a self-inflicted injury. Police say all were known to each other. Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew has offered his support to that community. And poignant ceremonies were held in a Manitoba First Nation today, marking 10 years since the body of Tina Fontaine was discovered. The murdered 15-year-old's family and community took part in a memorial walk to honor her and the many other Indigenous people across Canada who have suffered a similar fate. It was a decade ago that Fontaine's body was found in Winnipeg's Red River after she'd been reported missing for a month. Her death further fueled calls for a national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Raymond Cormier was charged with Fontaine's murder, but was acquitted in 2018. He died earlier this year. Concrete Con, coming up. A warning about a driveway paving scam. Plus, costly procedure, how a medical bill for tens of thousands of dollars has sparked calls for better health care in Canada. A major recall has been issued for 4 models of DeWalt lawnmowers over fears they could cause laceration injuries. 9,600 of the electric mowers have been sold in Canada this year. Now, if water gets into the handle, the mower may not shut off when the bail handle is released, or it could start without a key. So far, there have been no reports of that happening in Canada, but it's occurred at least 11 times in the U.S., with one person receiving a minor laceration. We're learning new details about a scam that's left dozens of Winnipeggers with shoddy driveways and out thousands of dollars. Police suspect a criminal network using migrant workers could be behind the con that's made its way from Eastern Ontario to the Winnipeg area. Melissa Ridgen has been following this story for us and joins us now with the latest. Melissa.
Jeff, Winnipeg police aren't saying much other than they're investigating complaints that crews have popped up in the city this week, swindling residents through high-pressure door-to-door sales. But the Ontario Provincial Police, they're investigating similar incidents in that province. They say this could be a traveling organized crime network using migrant workers as pawns in their scam.
Whether it's organized crime of some kind, and I mean, it is organized crime in a loose and general sense for sure, but we want to find the people who are behind it.
Folks from Ontario to Winnipeg say salesmen make the pitch. They're working in the area and need to get rid of extra asphalt quickly, doing driveway work for a decent price. Then they bring in crews that don't appear trained to do the work, leaving homeowners with crumbling or mushy driveways they have to tear up.
Right, and it's all crumbling. Like this is garbage.
OPP investigators believe this network could be using low-paid temporary foreign workers as part of their business model.
We have engaged Canada Border Services. Can't get into a lot of details there.
The Better Business Bureau of Canada says they're bracing for more complaints if the network continues to spread.
Some people right now might be, undergoing some of these complaints that we'll hear about later on. We do suspect the numbers to go up into the fall and winter.
This family hopes getting the word out makes potential victims wiser.
And they're collecting cash money, thousands of dollars. We figured out maybe $25,000 in one day that they collected, in this area.
Well, news of migrant workers potentially being used in this scam comes on the heels of a United Nations report earlier this week that said Canada's temporary foreign worker program is a, quote, breeding ground for contemporary slavery, something that Immigration Minister Mark Miller says is too harsh a criticism. But police in some jurisdictions are looking into whether or not that actually is the case in this growing asphalt scam. Jeff.
Melissa Ridgen in Winnipeg. Thanks, Melissa. Still ahead, health coverage concerns. A Canadian woman forced to go south of the border to treat a debilitating condition.
Canadians want to be informed. That's why more Canadians than ever are turning to Global News for the most extensive news coverage available on all platforms. Watch, listen, and follow Canada's trusted source for news, Global News.
A Nova Scotian woman is calling for better support for Canada's healthcare system after being forced to fly to the United States for a costly surgery. Last year, Chantal Harding was diagnosed with endometriosis, a chronic condition that affects 10% of women and girls, according to the World Health Organization. She's now out tens of thousands of dollars for her procedure, something she says would have been avoided if there were better options here at home. Ella McDonald has her story.
Chantal Harding has had more than 20 surgeries to cope with her endometriosis, including a hysterectomy. But when her pain increased last year, she had to go on long-term disability. That's when she knew enough was enough.
I've spoken with a lot of people who say, there's nothing more they can do for me. I'm stuck, I just need to live this way, and this is what I need to accept. And that's not the case.
The Nova Scotian mother of 3 flew to Atlanta for surgical excision, an option not commonly available in Canada.
My quality of life, as a mid-40s woman with young children was not great. And so we decided we were going to go.
But without provincial MSI coverage, it came with a hefty price tag.
The unfortunate part is that it comes at a cost to myself. It's not covered by MSI. It's not covered by any of my benefits. So it was approximately, all said and done, about $50,000 US out of my own pocket.
In a statement, the Department of Health says Nova Scotians who are referred by their healthcare provider may be eligible for financial assistance, but this requires pre-approval from MSI. Harding's doctors could have referred her to an American surgeon, lessening the cost of excision, but no one would sign off on it.
When I went down, my stomach was attached to my bowel, was attached to my bladder. Everything was intertwined and stuck together.
The IWK's endometriosis and chronic pelvic pain clinic is designed for pain management and not surgical treatment. Although a great resource, Harding says the clinic is better for people starting their endometriosis journey and not for complex cases.
The chronic pelvic pain clinic, it's a really good start. We definitely need to do more. We need more funding. We need more research of what needs to be done here for patients.
Ella MacDonald, Global News, Halifax.
Watch The Morning Show with Carolyn Mackenzie and Jeff MacArthur, weekdays on Global. Global News, committed to local weather across Canada with the most extensive weather coverage whenever and wherever you need it. Connect with Global News, your SkyTracker weather source.
Very visible thruster firings from the Progress as it completes its alignment to the aft port of Zvezda.
A desperately needed docking took place at the International Space Station today as a cargo craft arrived carrying vital supplies. That spacecraft, launched by Russia, is said to be carrying about 3 tons of food, fuel, and other necessities for the crew on board the ISS. That includes Butch Wilmore and Sonny William, who have been stuck on board since June due to problems with Boeing's Starliner capsule. NASA is expected to provide an update at the end of the month, but reports suggest they could be stuck up there until February. That is Global National for this Saturday night. I'm Jeff Semple. Tonight's Your Canada is Dinosaur Provincial Park, the UNESCO World Heritage Site near Brooks, Alberta. We love seeing Your Canada, so please keep emailing your photos to globalnational@globalnews.ca. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you back here again tomorrow. Have a great night.